Hello, everyone. Jack Bosch speaking here, and welcome to another episode of our real estate investing podcast. I'm super excited to talk to you today about wealth creation, about wealth without Wall Street, about different ways of funding your real estate investments, of funding in overall investments, of generating wealth. And we get started with our two special guests, and we get started in just a second.
Welcome to the Forever Cash Life Real Estate Investing Podcast with your hosts, Jack and Michelle Bosch. Together, let's uncover the secrets to building true wealth through real estate and living a purpose-driven life. Join us for the Land Profit Generator live event happening on the weekend of October 1st to 3rd in Phoenix, Arizona. Jack Bosch will be teaching the exact methods and systems that he and his wife Michelle have used to create an 8-figure real estate empire using the simplest, fastest, and most profitable asset class in real estate. Visit www.landflippinglive.com to book your seat.
All right, so here we are, and our guests today are Russ Morgan and Joey Mure, right? Mure. I hope I did that decently. Is that right?
You got it. You got it, Jack. Perfect.
All right, wonderful. Yeah, that's not, initially I wanted to say Mure, but that I guess would be really bad. So apologize for that already. So how are you guys doing?
Oh, fantastic, man. Thanks for having us.
So we're talking about wealth without Wall Street. So typically the ways to generate wealth out there that most people know is the following, right? They take a certain percentage of their income, put it into a 401k or something like that, and have their company decide where to invest it in. And then it either goes up or it doesn't go up. Or they take any other leftover money, put it in the stock market and then see it right up. Or they go buy their house and see it go up like it is right now in the current environment that the prices are rising like crazy, right? But there is many other ways to generate wealth in this world. And there are some creative ways that you can structure the financing of that and structure up the deal, overall the deal structuring such. And you guys are experts in that area. Is that correct?
Well, I don't know about experts, right? I mean, here's the thing is what an expert is someone who's accomplished all the knowledge that needs to be obtained in a certain field. And I don't believe that that's possible in probably any field, but especially something as broad and as wide as financial freedom. Joey and I do share our knowledge, whatever that breadth of that knowledge is. Every single week on our own podcast, we talk about and talk to people who want to be financially free. Our stick is that we help people get there faster. And it's not because we're giving advice, because I think, financial advice is garbage and should be treated as such. But it comes from a place of experience. So Joey and I, every single month, we publish our own personal passive income report just so that people can know that we actually speak and do what we're speaking about. I think there's a lot of potential experts in the world, but if you looked at their bottom line, you would not be very impressed. Not that you're impressed by ours, but at the end of the day, we do show exactly what we're doing. And that's why we have an audience who are trying to accomplish similar things that we are.
So you do your own cooking, in other words, which is
exactly
one of the prerequisites to be on the show anyway. So yes, that's great to know that you guys are doing that. So now tell me about it. What is in this report? So like, what is the number one? Well, give us a little bit of your background first. Tell us a little bit of background and what is it that you really have created here?
Well, and Jack, I'll jump in. First of all, I think the main objective to this whole interview and what we're talking about today is exactly what you live and breathe every day. And that is wealth creation is not a rising account that you can't access, right? It's not the idea of retirement. It's about freedom today. And you only get there through passive income. So the report you're talking about is our passive income report. And it is where we are literally putting down on paper what our results are from doing the things that we're sharing on our show every single week. And if we didn't do that, you shouldn't listen to us. You shouldn't even say, hey, this is, because if we don't have the path to get you out of that day job, to get you out of the position that you're in. And I'll share my background as a result. I came from the mortgage industry I was in the mortgage industry for 11 years. And about 4 or 5 years in, I started making a lot of money. In fact, I felt like I had obtained financial success. I was making over $300,000 a year. I was leading 25 loan officers. I had a bunch of bank branches that were kind of under my leadership that I had to connect the mortgage aspect to. Anyways, long story short, I got to that point that I thought was financial success. And I looked around and I said, this can't be what everybody's talking about, right? I'm sitting here working 60 hours a week. I was making more money, but I was on vacations and I had my phone literally attached to my hip. And I would tell my wife and my daughters at the time, hey, y'all go down to the beach. I'll be down there in a little bit. I just had to take this application. And then undoubtedly an hour and a half later, I show up down at the beach and they're done and they're going into the condo and I'm coming out, and then we've totally missed each other. So I'm not present. And what I realized is something had to give. Like a 401k balance that's growing is great, but does that produce freedom? And does the money in the stock market going up or down, which is actually an option you left out in your initial monologue here, is that the money doesn't always go up, by the way.
Right.
It can go down. And so does that equal financial success? And what I would tell you is time is success. The more time that you can be mentally freed up to be present with those that you love and to be the best version of yourself, like who God has created you to be and have an impact on this world, is far more important. And the only way to do that is through passive income. And anyways, long story short, but Russ and I started working together in 2010 because I realized something was off. And I was never going to become free by going up this corporate ladder. In fact, I'll tell you this, and I don't mean to be so long-winded, but the guy that was 2 rungs up on that corporate ladder from me was working hard, making lots of money, and he died on a treadmill at a conference. And he was like 50. And I said, okay, if that's the future, that was part of what woke me up. That was part of like, okay, this can't be the way. And anyway, so Russ and I started working together. We started implementing the very process that we teach now. And I started seeing dramatic differences, not immediately, but over the first 3 or 4 years. I got so passionate about it. I said, wait a minute, why don't more people know about this? And I looked to Russ and I was like, Russ, you are terrible at getting the word out, man. Like, you need help. In fact, I feel like God's telling me I need to go and do this with you. And so I literally walked away from my career making over $300,000 a year. My wife was pregnant with our 4th daughter. And I said, Russ, we got to do this thing together and we got to do it right. And so I left in 2014 and he and I started working together from there. In Wealth Without Wallstreet was born in 2016 when we started the podcast.
Well, that's really cool. Now, Russ, you want to add something to that, perhaps?
Well, I mean, I know that there was a dig in there that he threw that wasn't so subtle, but what was very obvious is that I was his hero and I helped him avoid dying on a treadmill. It sounded like, basically.
That's what I heard too. That's what I heard.
Good. That's
exactly right.
So my background, Jack, is I was the financial planner. I was literally a certified financial planner at one point, which you asked about being an expert. At that point in time, I would have thought I was an expert, right? I'd gone through this rigorous study to get a designation that so few financial professionals ever rise and can even take, but then when they take it, don't pass it. And I thought, I have all the knowledge. I've literally arrived in knowledge. And I passed that test in the early part of 2008. And we all know what happened at the end of 2008. And I quickly understood that I had so little information as it pertained to money, and that I was looking to people that were just as ignorant on the real workings of finances that I was. And that set me on the path. And thankfully, along that path, I came across a couple of things that taught me some stuff. Joey was a great student. The teacher always learns more than the student. So I was just one step ahead of him, but he's constantly been pushing me ever since. And, I just come from a background of saying that I was the person that would say, give me your money. I'm smarter than you when it comes to finance. You go do your job. I'll do mine and we'll both win. And the reality is that usually that doesn't work out for long. The person you give the money to will always make money. You may or may not.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. A friend of mine says there's a saying in the industry that that says what the stock market made money, the broker made, or the financial advisor made money. 2 out of 3 ain't bad, right? So anyway, okay. So what do you guys suggest people do? Let's jump into what is your solution?
Well, here's it. So I'll kind of lay it out and let Joey, and he'll say a long story short, but it's really a long story long. But we have a 3-step process that we walk everybody through that we think that it helps give clarity, right? So just like if you were traveling to any place that you've never been, you need a co-pilot. You need somebody to help navigate the process. And so part of that, we built this 3-step process, and we made the acronym GPS because everybody's familiar with that terminology, especially as it relates to being in travel somewhere. And the first step is having a goal, being really crystal clear on if you could stop trading time for money today, what would that give you the ability to do? What would that give you the ability to have? And who do you need to become in order to make that happen? And while that seems super simple, Jack, what we found is over the last 5 years of asking people those questions, outside of the real surface level answers, I would just go retire to a beach somewhere, enjoy life with my family, which is all great things, but typically that's an ideal day. That's not an ideal lifestyle, especially for the people who are listening to this podcast, because if you're listening to this podcast, you're a learner. You're probably a producer. You're not going to just sit anywhere for a long period of time and be happy. And so we help people within our first step get really clear as to what they really want. And I think that that's something that most of the time we've not done because we just put our head down in the ground. And maybe it's because we don't believe it's possible. Maybe we don't really believe that I can be financially free, that I could have more passive income than I have monthly expenses, because, that's just for the rich people, right? That's just for the wealthy people. That's the people that are on the podcast can do that. That's just not for me, but that's not the reality, but that's the lies that we've been told. Step 2 is actually having a plan, knowing who you are as an investor. Because here's the thing, Jack, you have an amazing process of teaching people how to buy and sell land. We love that. Joey and I actually, one of our businesses that we own is a land flipping business. We love that business. But I know from personal experience that not everybody's good at it, right? Not everybody can be successful in that business because it's not about the investment. It's about the investor. And so one of the things we do within our second step, the plan, is help people understand who they are as an investor, match up their God-given profile to the different potential passive income strategies that exist, and make sure that you walk out the door in the most successful way possible before you start down that path. And the third step is given in the S is support. So many people fall short of the finish line because they don't ever have anybody else around them that's doing it. I mean, you probably know this. You're listening to this podcast. You probably go and tell your 5 best friends about what you've been listening to, and you realize they're not listening to the same stuff you're listening to. They're not thinking about the same stuff you're doing. And because of that, then ultimately you will become the sum of those 5 friends. Well, as compared to if you're in a support system of other people who are achieving exactly what you are doing and what you want to accomplish, you have that much more success rate. And so we build a process around helping people go through those 3 steps and seeing people who reach amazing potential, who start coming back and telling us, like, I've changed my family's generational wealth because of this process. Like I was a firefighter and now I own apartment complexes. I was running an excavator for a living, and now my wife has left her job as a nurse because we have more passive income than we have monthly expenses.
That is fantastic. So now let's jump into that. So I know one of the bases for that is of the actual step, like I love that. Like when we do our seminars, the very first thing we do is we talk about what is your reason why and what is your actual goals. What's the 1-year goal, 3-year goal, like 5-year goals for people to kind of accomplish. And it's apparently something very similar, which is which is great because if you don't have a goal, how do you know if you arrived at, right? If you don't have a goal, you don't know where you want to go there. So the thing is, so I understand that one of the first steps that you have comes with using what's called infinite banking, right? So, and that's totally, that's a cool concept. We've covered it in other episodes before. I'm myself a consumer of infinite banking. So in other words, it's an insurance. Explain the concept one more time quickly. Or is that the first step, or is that the second step, or is that the third step? Where do we start here? Let's get into some meat, of actually how these things work, so that so people can walk away with something like, aha, this is something I need to do.
So typically, Jack, what we find is that the goal has to be number one. It has to be first, because without it, as you mentioned, we don't know if, we've obtained the actual, what financial freedom looks like for me. And so if we don't have that goal set up, nothing else matters. In fact, I'll even point back to my story. When I saw the guy 2 rungs ahead of me die on a treadmill, that to me was a wake-up call that said, oh, my goal doesn't match up with what I want. And so because I had that, I could compare it. So anyways, once you have that goal in place, the plan really becomes where you start getting into those nitty-gritties, like what type of investor am I? And then what kind of a saver am I? And so infinite banking is really just a replacement of your savings account. And to be honest, Jack, I have yet to find, there's not one person, maybe you're the first, that has challenged me on this. If I said, hey, you know what, Jack, tell me how much you love your savings account.
To add to what Joey was saying, and going back to what you're talking about, Jack, is the steps that people want to follow. Everybody wants the easy button, right? And I love podcasts because there's some really actionable things that you can do. And we get a lot of that. Well, just tell me what I should go invest in. Tell me what the first steps we should take. And so I will give you some actionable things. First step first, take the amount of money that you make or spend. Let's just use spend. Let's say I spend $10,000 a month, right? $120,000 a year. You with me? Now, yes. If you want to know if you follow Wall Street's plan, how much money should you have in order to be able to accomplish that process, you need to take that number and multiply it times 33.33. So I'm going to take the 120 and I'm going to multiply it times 33.33. What's that going to give me?
Well, why is that number? Why by that number?
Well, great question. So there's mathematicians that have done and measured statistics on portfolios, investing portfolios, going back over the last 50 to 60 years to determine how much money that you need to have in an account in order to then spend it off with this in mind, to have at least $1 left in that account at the end of 20 years. All right. Right. Now we've interviewed those mathematicians. One of them, the most famous one, probably right now, is a guy named Dr. Wade Pfau, P-F-A-U. And originally it was called the 4% rule. But when we've interviewed him over the last couple of years, he said actually that rule should be adjusted because of low interest rates to the 3% rule. So the 3% rule is if you take your income or your expenses and you multiply it times 33.33 to tell you how much money you need in an account that you could spend 3% off of. So in that example, $120,000, $10,000 a month, you need $4 million, right? At $4 million in an account. Now, most people, Jack, that we're talking to are never going to get $4 million in an account. It won't matter how long they work. So here's the thing that the next question I give them an easy thing to do is say, okay, well, write down the amount of passive income. That's money that comes in that you don't go to work for, that comes in every single month. Write that number down on the left side of the page. On the right side, take that $10,000 monthly expense or whatever your monthly expense is, take the number on the left and divide it into the number on the right. And that'll tell you as a percentage how close you are to being financially free.
What's now, a good example? Give an example.
Yeah, if I have $1,000 a month in passive income and I have $10,000 a month in monthly expenses, that tells me I'm 10% of the way there. Now, I have a goal of getting 100% there, right? But at least I know where I stand. I know where I stand in relationship to that goal. So when you ask for actionable things, one of the first things we do is have people run through these calculations for themselves. And they start doing what Joey said, is creating who they are as their investor, understanding that process, understanding where they save money, understanding a framework that they should follow for every financial decision from that point forward, in light of that equation of passive income being greater than monthly expenses. So are the decisions we're making on a daily basis getting us closer to financial freedom, meaning closer to 100%? Or is it getting us further away? And there's so many people don't understand how that equation works, and they make bad decisions. So the actionable takes that people have through this process is not buying a life insurance policy for infinite banking. I own over 20 life insurance policies, put hundreds of thousands of dollars every year into these life insurance policies. I love them, but that won't do a thing for you if you don't use the money.
That's right.
You got to put the money to work. And what we're teaching people in our process is how to think about money, how to create yourself as to be a good investor and not be so focused on investments.
So there's really two steps here that I've heard you say. The first step is you guys basically have a different and better vehicle. And I agree, because I'm a customer of that models myself, better model for a savings account, right? And that's exactly how I use my infinite banking life insurance too. Like, for example, we run a business, right? We run a business, and in our business, we have operational costs. So since we're a debt-free business and we're a cash flow positive business, we never had the need, because we bootstrapped ourselves from zero up to land flipping. We never had the need to have actually big lines of credit from the banks. So without those lines of credit of the banks for our business, the way we made sure that we always have enough cash for an eventual emergency, like a COVID that happens or something like that, and you don't know what the heck is happening for the next 3-4 weeks or 6 weeks before you adjust to the market and adjust to the new reality and things like that. Then for that, or if you have staff and employees and you have an operational cost, we always like to keep a few months, like 6 months or so, of operational capital on the sidelines. So the way I use right now, what we always used to do is I would just have to basically either a savings account or a money market account or something like that, where we would just have a significant dollar amount sitting there that we build up over time that was just dead money, because it would produce like absolutely nothing, mostly even in a checking account. So it produces like 0%. Now, once I learned about the concept you guys are talking about, I was like, no, this is stupid to have it sitting there for zero. I always knew it was stupid, right? But I didn't have an alternative to it. So now it's like, there's an alternative of a program that I could put that money in, and that'll then grow at a certain percentage. And if I need it, I can still access the money, right? That's the part that got me convinced on this kind of concept. Now,
what you're saying is this is exactly what one of our clients jumped in and told us one time. They said, once I got my money into a place that I could actually access, right? Once I got it out of my business, once I got it out of the 401k world, once I got it out of the stock market and I put it into a place that I could actually access it, here's what happened. The money told me I have to put it to work. Because we know money sitting dead is just like paying for employees who are not doing work. Right. So our money has to be employed. We need to put it to work. And what you're teaching people a process of how to use land flipping, which is amazing. But the activity of getting people's mind activated to understanding, I have to create passive income streams, because it won't matter how much money we start to save unless you can get 33.33 times the amount of money you spend in an account somewhere. You're not going to be financially free. Right. So you have to put it to work. And I think that's the process that we found. And that's the key that most people miss. So exactly right. So now that money is sitting somewhere else and is producing money, but it's still not being put to work. Right. So I'm still missing a step myself. So what I'm actually literally right now in the process working with a bank over here to get me a line of credit of a certain amount that we never
that we don't really need to use, but just to have that access there. And the moment I have that, then this money becomes freed up to actually be used in different places. Now, the average investor, or average land flipper, or the average person having a job, what they do is they just put it into a savings account, and you guys have a better option for that. That'll accrue faster, but now they can actually take that, and it's out of their immediate reach. You can access it, but it takes a couple of days to get the money back out, right? It takes so there's enough of a hurdle out there that it's not right there in your checking account and you can use it to buy that new motorcycle you just saw, right? But at the same time, it's available for investments. So now basically step 2 that you guys say now is you teach them what to do with that money in order to turn it into passive income. Is that correct?
That's right. The only thing I would challenge you on a little bit is that our inner circle members also create ways that they can get immediate access, checkbook access for their policies, in their system. But here's the big deal. The big so what is this? If you're listening to this right now, you should turn us off if you don't care about getting to financial freedom faster. Ultimately, infinite banking is no different than saying, I want financial freedom faster. How can I get there? And I'll tell you this from personal experience. If you talk to me 12 years ago, before Russ and I met, I was doing okay. Good income. I was putting money away into certain places and all this sort of thing. But I would tell you, I was probably at the end of the month, if you said, hey, how much could you put into a system like this infinite banking thing? It was about a third of what I actually ended up doing. And the reason was I was still thinking in light of what's left over. And by working with a coach, in this case, it was Russ. And even despite the fact that it was Russ, it wasn't even a good coach. It was a coach. And he helped me to see how I had all this opportunity if I started thinking in light of what do I really want? I really want financial freedom today. So why in the world am I putting 6% of my paycheck into this 401k that I can't touch until I'm 60 or older? That is ludicrous. I mean, it didn't even matter what's the return. Who cares what the return is? Which, by the way, if people are listening and they're not creating land flipping businesses, the returns are substantially better than anything Wall Street would ever give you, despite the fact you get financial freedom today. That's the most important thing. But anyway, my point is you use that support system that we talk about to be clear on, and I'll tell you this, I went from probably putting about $15,000 a year into some form of savings when I first learned about this into over $60,000 a year in the first year. And it was only because of being challenged on how I think, and thus that changed my actions. And so anyways, all that being said, that's the only reason you do this. Quickly
jump into what you said about the 401ks. I mean, I'm not a big fan about the 401ks ever anyway. And the one thing they do is they take money out of people's pockets so that they don't spend it, right? That's the one benefit for it. But again, what you guys designed, what you guys have does the same thing, and it allows people to put money away where it actually grows and can be used and is in their control. They don't have to wait until they're 60. And because again, I always say like, hey, what good? Like if you're 35 years old right now, you can be financially completely independent 5-6 years from now. Perhaps 10 years from now, perhaps 2 years from now, if you do land flipping quicker, of course, but depending on how much activity and how much you take. But if you just put it into your 401k, you basically sentence yourself to working until you're 65. And then who knows how the tax laws are at that point, and you'll end up paying 70% taxes or something like that at that point of time, because with the debt that we're building up as a country, the tax rates can only go one direction. That is up. They cannot go anywhere else. It's impossible for them to go down.
Well, you mentioned land flipping. So Joey and I started a land flipping business about 18 months ago. And I would say the first probably 6 months, we really didn't know what we were doing at all. And even with our lack of understanding, in 18 months, we've created net, after all expenses, just under $8,000 a month passive. And I mean, so what you're saying is, I mean, now that isn't enough to cover Joey and I's monthly expenses, right? But there's a lot of people out there who $8,000 a month would cover their monthly expenses. You get there in 12 to 18 months. And I think that that's what the conversation is really around, is how desperate am I to get into a position where I get to go to work because I want to? Jack, I think you would probably agree with this. Joey and I definitely do, is that we believe the work that we do is passion income. Like, we are so passionate about what we do. Joey left a job. He was making lots of money because he was just so passionate about what he was experiencing and want to share it with others. We have other coaches that flew planes for a living that now are working as coaches in our industry and with us. I've met orthopedic surgeons. I've met chiropractors. I've met attorneys. They've all moved into our type of industry because they love what we do. They're passionate about it, right? Well, there's some people that are listening to this right now that just love what they do. They never want to quit that, but they want to be able to do it because they want to and not because they have to. And what land flipping does in any other passive income stream, it gives you and grants you the ability to do it because you want to and not because you have to. And I would say, I would challenge the fact that I believe you probably will be better at what you do once you don't have to do it, because you'll show up because you want to. You'll show up with a different attitude. And all of the businesses that we've been able to create last month, we created over $65,000 a month in passive income in all our different businesses. That gives us the ability to show up because we want to, not because we have to.
Right. Yeah. And that's beautiful, guys. So in other words, you guys now step through the third step is what it starts up at the different part of it is you created a community where you guys basically teach all of that. You show people different aspects of it, and it's not all real estate, right? It's also different kind of things, different income, ways of generating income, but it's all designed. And I like the post, I like that direction that you guys going. That basically it's all designed around what is your goal, where do you want to be, what is the true lifestyle you want to live in, how much money do you need for that. Where are you right now? I love that calculation of it, right? And I love that 33.33 kind of calculation as a contrary approach to it. There's shows hey, if you just do 401k, this is what you need to get. If you have passive income, this is what you need to get. So I love that. And now you guys actually have a community with a newsletter, with coachings, with things that show people how to get there. So how do people get a hold of you? How do people find out more about that?
Well, I want to throw in, Jack, what you're saying is the community is dramatically important. And I'll just say this, if you've been listening to this podcast for any length of time and you go talk to 3 or 4 people, they may look at you blindly like, what are you even talking about, right? They have no context. And so how likely are they going to be able to help you get started or stay connected to this? If this is your goal and this is your passive income process, how likely is it that those people are going to help you get on that path? It's virtually impossible, right? So the people that surround you are incredibly important when it comes to this game of getting to financial freedom. And so that's what we found is man, we have a lot of people that have these infinite banking policies, but they have to be in community. They can't, because if you go tell anybody you put money in life insurance, they're going to laugh at you. They're going to tell you you're a moron. I know Wells Fargo puts $18 billion of life insurance every year into life insurance every year, but you're a moron if you put money in life insurance. First of all, I'll never understand that. But so our community exists to support everybody on this journey. And it's also the basis of which we provide our coaching. And so every week we have joint coaching or group coaching twice a week. And then we have individual coaching provided with each of our coaches. So, but the thing I wanted to offer your audience, Jack, is that very first step is getting clarity in the goal. And we call that the Passport Challenge. Okay. So when people sign up for the Passport Challenge, it's totally free. It gives them the ability to really start to dream and give themselves the license to say, what would financial freedom look like for me? And it's hard, right? It's hard to go from you telling yourself, well, that's somebody else's dream. I can't get there, to now giving yourself the ability to do that. So we created this process to help you get really clear. And we call it the Passport Challenge. You can get there by going to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/passport. And when you do that, you automatically become a free member of our community. So you have access to our whole community. Say that again. It's
and the wealthwithoutwallstreet.com, right? wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/passport. Passport. All right. We'll put that in the show notes for sure. Just want to make sure we repeat it. Well, that is great. So I love that approach, guys. So because again, it is a very holistic approach. There's a bunch of people out there that basically say like, yeah, you need X. But then they don't tell you how to use X to actually make an impact into your life, right? So you guys have this comprehensive approach where we don't just tell people, hey, this is X, this is something you may or may not need or so, but then, hey, here is the path to what you really want. Because anything we do is really designed as, there's always another reason behind it, right? There's another reason behind it. And the reason behind me doing podcasts is I want to learn, right? The second reason behind it is I want other people to learn. The third reason behind it, I want other people to be financially independent, right? So as a result, I love that you guys have the reason of changing people's life to the point that they are also financially free. And I absolutely love that you put your effort into that. Great. So with that said, guys, I want to wrap it up. Any kind of last words you want to share perhaps with the audience that might be beneficial to any one of them? Let me know, and then we're going to wrap it up.
Russ, you want to go?
Jack, thank you for having us on the show. Thank you for letting us be long-winded. Joey and I have a gift. If we're experts at anything, it's talking long time, not necessarily always clear to the point. But thankfully, Joey and I are not the coaches anymore. Our coaches are better at a lot of things than us, and that is following through. So if you go through that Passport Challenge that Joey spoke about, that you thank you for repeating, wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/passport. At the end of that, you have an opportunity to get connected with a coach, someone who actually will walk you through the process. Our goal is to help people get closer to financial freedom. That's it. Whether they set up one of those insurance policies that you guys spend a lot of time talking about, or they're looking to get into land flipping, or looking to get into the real estate business or e-commerce or whatever it may be, our job is to help them get closer to their goals. And that's really what we've built our community around, what we've built our process around, because we love seeing people be successful. And I appreciate you giving us a chance to just share our platform with your audience.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Joey.
Yeah. So Jack, I'm going to tell one more quick story on the way out. And it's just because this is the anchor that is in the back of my mind every time I talk about financial freedom. Several years ago, I was with my fourth daughter in the car, driving her to preschool. And she's sitting in the back seat, and maybe you've had the same experience with your kids. They're sitting there and they just have all these words. Like they want to talk the entire time you're dropping them off at school. And she's sitting there with her little 5-point harness on. She's got her backpack next to her, and she says, "Dad, you going to pick me up today?" And I said, "No, sweetheart, I got to go to work." She said, "Well, why do you have to go to work?" And I said, "Well, because I've got to pay for this car. I got to pay for our house. I got to put food on the table, all these things." And she said, "Well, we already have a car, and we already have a house. We already have food in the fridge." And as simple as that conversation was, Jack, the thing that drove me from that point forward was I had to say, I have to go to work. And I love what I do. And I love what I did at the time. But the fact that I had to tell her that told me I did not have financial freedom, and it was worth fighting to get there. I had to take the steps necessary to get there, but it was worth it because my daughter's only going to be that age for so long. And it's super fast. It flies by. And the last thing I want is regret that I missed most of their lives or most of their growing up, or whatever it may be. There's never going to be another time that she wants to play dolls, or that she wants me to go and just play tag with her at the park. And if I have to go to work, I'm missing out on that. So that's what we're calling people to, is financial freedom. And that's what the process is for. And I'm grateful that we could come on a show like yours. We're like-minded, creating passive income through land flipping. And so thanks again for having us.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you much for being here. I resonate with that very, very much. I mean, there's somebody that says, you said you only have 18 summers with your kids. Because once they're in school, they're gone most of the day anyway. Then they do homework. Then they have whatever baseball, football, soccer, dancing, whatever it may be. So you have family dinner. Basically, you have breakfast, driving them to school, family dinner, and the summers. That's what you have with your kids. And we make those in our family the highest priority. We have every night we have family dinner together. We go lots of times out for dinner so that we don't even need to cook. We just sit all together for an hour and a half, conversation thing. We spend the weekends together. Obviously, you got the weekends, and we take a month to a month and a half every summer and go travel around the world. Whether it reduces our business or not, it doesn't matter, because there's always a time after they went off to college that I can go with both feet back in and do more if I want to. Not that we need more, we don't want more, but if I really want to, I can do it then, right? But those 18 years are sacred, and really want to make sure that you do what you take while they're in school, while they're with friends, while they don't need you. They don't need you every moment of the day, but they need you more when they're little than when they're older. So make sure you take that into consideration. The time to rest is not later. The time to rest is not when you're old. The time to get active is right now. Get it out of the way, and then have all this time with your family.
Absolutely.
Wonderful. Thank you, guys. I love it. Again, we put the link into the show notes. And with that said, thank you very much, everyone. If you enjoyed the show, give us a thumbs up. If you're watching this on iTunes or listening to it on iTunes, make sure you give us 5-star review. And with that said, we'll see you in the next show. Thank you very much.